Welcome to this episode of the Conscious Business Coffee Break, where we take a few moments to explore what's happening in conscious business, expand awareness, and encourage your efforts in the movement. My name is Stephen Donaco. Greetings, everyone. I'm with the Conscious Business Enterprise, a division of humanities team. And on today's program, the topic is the virtue of an intergenerational workforce. It was led to this topic by an article in Inc.com called Old People Not Robots Offer the Best Employment. Old People Not Robots Offer the Best Answer to Employment Conundrums. And first off, let me just say we need to find a better word than old people. We might say elders. I'm not sure what the best word is, but just saying old people just has such a negative connotation in our society. And we could choose something with greater respect, I feel. So in any case, but the article I'll link to in the comments to the video, the subheading is that artificial intelligence is not our current human resources answer. And the article starts with referencing a Government Accountability Office study in the US that basically says the Air Force, the Navy, and the Marine Corps had noted and were requesting that one, there was a shortage of pilots, so that was what they had found, and then two, they were requesting the permission to bring pilots back from retirement. So the Air Force Secretary in particular approved the attempt to reactivate 1,000 retired pilots to active duty. So let's generalize that, and what's the implication of that for the business community? And this is interesting because, after all, the military has served as an example and as a feeder for private business over the years. A lot of business executives, especially from the previous generations, have served in high-ranking positions in business as CEOs and executives and high-level consultants and such. So here we have the military again, potentially serving as an example for private business to address a different issue. Bloomberg Opinion reported that by the year 2020, well over a quarter of the workforce will be over the age of 55, which means that these are seasoned people. So again, let's getting away from the word old, but saying that a quarter of the workforce will be seasoned, well seasoned by the year 2020. And I'm pretty close to that myself. So by the year 2020, I fall into that category. And so, this has really immediacy for me as well. Now, this particular figure sheds light on broader issues of training and retraining. So Bloomberg said, quote, "Scary as the rise of robots apparently is, perhaps it's a fixation because it's actually less scary than the real social issues ahead." And one of those issues being how to integrate growing numbers of seasoned people, elders, into the workforce. And the other quote from the article is that more elderly workers will force many people to confront their biases, fears, and prejudices about age, probably leading to a bigger cultural clash than that with the machines. So from a cultural and a practical standpoint, in today's world, most companies present themselves as being, quote unquote, cool places for younger people to work. And the median age at technology companies, for instance, it ranges from 27 to 31, so fairly young. And then advertising by these corporations, and it's certainly outside the tech industry as well, but corporations, when they advertise themselves as workplaces, they're focusing on images of younger people. And we might say that in general, younger people are more in touch with the latest developments in rapidly changing fields like programming, coding, and software. And this is what the article says. Now, my experience is that's not necessarily always true. I've experienced younger people who aren't that technologically adept beyond just using a cell phone, and this is fine. So I'm not making a criticism here. But I've seen in my own experience there are people of older generations who are tech savvy who are able to do and are inclined and have the ability to do more tech things like coding and programming. And I think, the danger is that we don't want to generalize and just lump everybody in one generation together and say, well, all the younger people can program and code, because that's a specific cognitive skill, and people across generations will have different skills, of course. So you might have somebody of the baby boomer generation who's a much better programmer than a millennial, but that millennial will have experiences in art or maybe in financial analysis that the programmer doesn't. So let's just beware of not generalizing across the generations. Now, the article says the younger folks are also more able to put in the crazy hours demanded by startups. It says they have more energy, they're not so set in their ways, they often work for less money, they are healthier, and the article even goes so far to say they are quote unquote prettier. Now, again, my comment on that is that none of these traits is absolute. When we talk about energy or health or being set in our ways, again, it's a generalization. People are adaptable across generations. So I even found by reading this article, which appears to be open-minded, actually there's some biases within the article itself. So things like energy, habit, how much money one wants to work for, health, and even attractiveness, they all span, and they are all variable across any generation. Now, new skills are trainable, and older employees often offer an unteachable wisdom, knowledge, perspective, and patience. So this basically goes to say that lived experience is only gained by living it. It's not something that can be taught. You can't just pick up a book and read about experience. You have to live it, and often that takes many years. So this is something that, of course, you gain as you live your life, and older generations have more experience simply because they have more time on the planet. And that's valuable. Now, formerly, it had been predicted that the age of the American workforce in particular would be declining by this point, with the presupposed retirement of the baby boomer generation. However, it's been found that the opposite of that has happened. So over a generation, the labor force participation rate for men who were aged 65 to 69 a generation ago was 25%, but now today it's 37%, which means that as people are aging, and this is an American statistic, but I would imagine that this might be happening all over the world as well, that people are remaining in the workforce. So, and really society needs people to work longer. Now, this doesn't mean working your fingers to the bone longer. This means being a productive, intelligent, and conscious member of society. And of course, I'm not even touching upon things like universal basic income that are being talked about increasingly. But just in terms of work and where we are at today, society needs everyone to be productive. So just as the military experiences the shortage of pilots, businesses, regardless of their size, are experiencing a shortage of employees generally. However, there's this human resources bias against hiring older workers. And really, that kind of attitude is counterproductive, and frankly, it's non-conscious. So let's look at this through the conscious business lens. And really, the article does go on to say that we can't afford to waste the talents of people who are aged 55 and older. As we approach fuller employment figures, meaning there is less unemployment, we really need to open up to the resources of everyone who is able, willing to work regardless of age. Now, there's a lot of talk of artificial intelligence and robotics to solve these workforce solutions, but those solutions are still a long time in coming. I mean, it might be another generation or more out before that has any critical mass to it. So Bloomberg had suggested that the ability to spot, mobilize, and deploy older workers is the next biggest source of competitive advantage in the US and perhaps even worldwide. So it's possible that uh, there are people who will continue working productively close to the age of 100, as people are healthier, as they get older, as there's more attention paid on health and productivity. And frankly, there are many people who are already living robust family lives, leisure lives, and volunteer lives at older ages already. So it's certainly possible for the workforce. Now, some additional commentary on this is that everyone ages. It's easy to deny this when you're young. Um, and because the younger people don't have the experience of aging, because in order to have the experience, you have to age. um, it's easy to deny that when you're in your 20s and 30s to think about being 50, or 60. But it all happens. It's inevitable for all of us. So among the conscious, with age comes more focus on meaning over material gain. With age comes development of other forms of intelligence beyond cognitive intelligence and beyond linguistic intelligence. And those are the two intelligences that our educational system really focuses on. But with age comes other forms of intelligence that we don't get through traditional education. These are the lived experiences that give us emotional intelligence, moral intelligence, relational intelligence, aesthetic intelligence, spiritual intelligence, etc. And these are the things that make the difference when we're talking about having meaning in life and doing good on for all, for the benefit of the world. So conscious business recognizes this and appreciates this. So the generations can and must be collaborative. This is our hope. And any perceived separation among generations and any incompatibility among generations is really a modern and a myopic notion. It's only relatively recently that we've created this separation that somehow younger people are more valuable than older people. Um, and this, I would also say that this ageism, it occurs across generations and even it occurs within one's own generation. So, there are people of my generation who we've gotten so fed up with all of the harm that we have done um, in the world, our generation, that like we place our hope on the millennial generation, and we think, okay, we just leave it to the millennials to fix the problems that we've been too dense to see and to consciously remedy. And I say, if we turn against ourselves, we're not doing the world a service either. So ageism is basically um, something we need to work on, regardless of what generation we are, and we have to recognize ourselves as being fully able, willing, and of value to the world. And we certainly have the technology now to accommodate remote working. So there's less commuting. This is probably one reason why people don't want to go commute to a job anymore. It's just too exhausting. But we have the technology to work remotely now. We can do video meetings. We can actually have shorter work weeks because we take out the commuting and the traveling component to work. And it actually baffles me that we still build these huge office buildings because the technology really does allow us the ability to work from wherever we want to. And imagine if you have 3 hours in your day that you get back because you're not on the road, or you're not sitting on a train, or you're not sitting in traffic. So we really, as a society in the world, just need to get with the program. Granted, some jobs you have to show up for and be present at a specific place, but there are so many more in this society, in this information economy, that you don't need to have an office 40, 50, 60 miles away from home. You can have a home office and you can work there, or you can actually work out of a coffee shop, or you can work in the yard like I am here today. So with that, let me just say that really all principles of the Conscious Business Declaration speak to this. And let me just read you the first one. We are one with humanity and all of life. Business and all institutions of the human community are integral parts of a single reality, interrelated, interconnected, and interdependent. And if we do that across generations, we really are living that first principle of oneness. So let me leave it there. I'll put a link to the article that I mentioned in the comments to the video. And thank you all, as always, for tuning in. I appreciate your presence here. And we'll see you again then on Friday for another edition of the Conscious Business Coffee Break at 9 a.m. U.S. Central Time. Have a great day, everyone.